Hi guys, I know it's been a long time since I've been on here, but hi. uh, Life happens, right? So it's been kind of crazy for me, but anyway, things are what they are. And I'm sure it's crazy for a lot of you right now, given the situation, and that's kind of what I'm here to talk about today. I'm here to talk about the wildfires. I've had quite a few people reach out to me and ask me what they can do to improve their horse's health through this time. We have fires burning pretty much everywhere except for PEI, I think. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of my knowledge, and hopefully it'll help you a bit in your day to day. I'm going to try to keep this quick, but you know how I am. So anyway, I think in these times it's really important to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, I guess you could say. And in preparing, of course, proper preparation prevents piss poor performance. So there's little things you can be doing to help your horse with its breathing and its respiration during these times. First thing I want to do is talk about the lungs themselves, and just so you understand the size of a horse's lungs, it's about, if you can think about the comparison of 10 to 1. So for example, a human lung capacity is about 6 liters of air, and a horse's is about 60 liters of air. So that's quite a bit different. And if you think about what the lungs look like, or what the internal structures of the lungs look like, you can kind of imagine it. If you turn it upside down, you can kind of imagine it looking like a tree. So the tree has the main windpipe, which is the larynx, and then that leads to the trachea and then the bronchial tubes. And then shooting off from the bronchial tubes, you have alveoli, which are sort of grape or pea size, maybe more like a chickpea, a little bit bigger size structures that exchange gas. So we take in oxygen and we give out CO2, all mammals. And so around those alveoli are things called capillaries, and those capillaries are even smaller, and they help with that gas exchange or transporting the gas. And if you looked at the surface area of the alveoli and the capillaries, the total surface area of a horse's lungs would be equivalent to about 10 tennis courts. So if you think about how small they must be, they're microscopic. And if you think about dust, if you're sitting in your house and like I am right now, there's some sun coming in, a beam of sunshine. My dog's lying in it right now. You can kind of see little bits of dust in the air, and that's in a house with a filtration system. So can you imagine sort of like what it's like for a horse and what they're dealing with at all time? The respiratory system is, you kind of have to think of it like the engine that drives all the other organs. And so at rest, if you think about it as well, a horse just at rest, just walking around, chomping, munching, they inhale about 66 liters of air per minute. So it's a pretty big capacity and a pretty big exchange. So what is a horse breathing in? Like, let's look at the horse's environment and think about what could that horse be breathing in naturally on a day-to-day basis that could be causing some problems to begin with. Because if you've got a horse that has heaves or COPD, they already are compromised. And so we want to try to improve that a little bit. This information I'm telling you today, the wildfire smoke might not be impacting you, but some of the things I can explain to you today might help you in your day-to-day. So when a horse is just living its life, if it's a stabled horse, of course, and it's working, you're looking at things like dust from footing. When I was in Ontario, I had a barn full of horses who reached out to me. Well, the horses didn't reach out to me. The stable manager reached out to me. And the horses there all of a sudden kind of started exhibiting allergy symptoms. So a lot of coughing, a lot of hives, a lot of runny noses. And they couldn't figure out what was wrong. They finally figured out that they had, nothing else had changed except they had stripped the footing out of the arena, the sand footing, and they had replaced it with tire tread, the crumbles. And most people that I know use the crumbles. They use it in combination with other footings such as sand, and so it's usually not such a big deal, but they had put in 100% crumbles. And so every time the horse was riding in this or working in this and moving, these little particulates, more little tiny microscopic particulates would come up, and of course the horse's nose is right there and they're breathing them in. So we put them on a protocol which is going to be similar to the protocol that I'm going to talk to you about today, and it cleared things up pretty quickly, which was kind of cool. So things like mold, footing, dusty footing, cobwebs. A lot of people think cobwebs are great to have in their barn because they help catch flies. Well, they do help catch flies, but unfortunately they collect a lot of dust, and with a lot of dust comes a lot of dust mites. So that's really important to clear your barn out sort of once every so often to make sure that you don't have big accumulations of dust in the means of cobwebs. Dust from shavings, if you're using even finer things like wood pellets and you're not soaking them, that can have an effect. Hay, mold from hay and dust from hay. Horses are obligate nose breathers, which means they can only breathe they breathe through their nose while they're eating. And so if you think about in the winter time, a lot of people feed round bales, and what they'll do is they will stick their head in there and they'll make a nice little hole and they'll just kind of camp out there. And so as they're eating, they're breathing in all of these, and they're moving the hay, which is causing a lot of the dust and debris to be disrupted, and then they're breathing it in. So some other things that you might not think about are things like fly sprays or anything that's smelly that you use on your horse, chemicals. Because although it might smell nice, the reason it's smelling nice is that these little particles are hitting the receptors in your nose and sending a signal to your brain telling you that you're in a beautiful lavender field when you're actually not. And those go to your lungs then and are kind of trapped there. They're now finding that a lot of those smelly things that we use in our laundry and like bounce sheets and even the Febreze plugins and all of those kind of things, those are what are called endocrine disrupt. I can never say that word. Endocrine disruptors. And what that means is that they're mucking with your hormones. So a lot of people, women especially, who are having, issues with losing weight or anything like that, a lot of times it can be your hormones, and that can be a contributing factor. And with horses too, it can be also a contributing factor. They're not natural chemicals unless they're from things like essential oils and stuff like that. So when you are using those things, kind of try to look for more natural sources of those. So all these little particulates or these little bits of dust and debris can get lodged in those little capillaries and the alveoli of the lungs. They can, over time, be lodged there for good, and they can create long-term lung damage, chronic lung disease. But another thing that they do is they impair clearance of the lungs. So that the term is called impaired clearance of the lungs. And what that means is the little particles create inflammation that trap them in there. The body's response is inflammation to try to heal, but it holds them in there, and they can't dislodge them. And so what can we do about all that? And then right now, with the wildfire smoke, they're breathing in all of that as well, and a lot of that is carcinogenic and toxic as well. Excuse me. Speaking of lungs. So let's talk about what we can do. So the first thing is, one of the best things you can do for your horse is actually movement. So movement creates something called locomotor coupling. Basically, that's a piston action where the intestines of the horse rock backward and forward. And when they rock forward in movement, they help to push on the lungs and expel air. And that can actually, like in a good canter or a good trot, it can have a very clearing effect of the lungs. A lot of people will tell me, oh, I'm really worried my horse has started coughing when I start riding. A lot of times that'll happen this time of year, and it's usually because the horse has been fairly sedentary or standing around for a few days, or this will happen in the spring too. And there's a lot more debris in the air, both this time in the fall when it's drier, right before the rainy season, and then in the spring again. They've got all the debris stuck in there from the winter. And that's actually a pretty normal response for a horse when they start moving, to have that little bit of a cough. The only time that's really concerning if it's chronic and it continues and it's all the time. So don't worry too much if it's just that one big cough and then off they go to work and then, you know, next week it's gone. That's actually a pretty healthy and normal thing to see with a horse with movement. And because of that locomotor coupling. The other thing that's important with movement is that movement helps pump lymphatic fluid through the body. Unlike our circulatory system and our respiratory system, which has our heart and our lungs to move our blood around, the lymphatic system doesn't have a pump like our heart to move the lymphatic fluid around. And as the lymphatic fluid moves through our body, it helps pick up these toxins and carries them out. It's also responsible for helping your immune system as well, fight pathogens and things like that. But just so you understand, horses have, again, it's the rule of 10 to 1. Horses have about 8,000 lymphatic nodes throughout their body, where humans have about 400 to 800. So our lymphatic system works pretty well, but horses, they really depend on their lymphatic system. So moving your horse, if you can't ride your horse for whatever reason, you can still set up some little cavalettes and lead them over cavalettes, which can create that piston action a bit to help move the lymph. The other thing you can do is hire a body worker, like a massage therapist. You can even just invest in $100 little massage gun, and you can find a lymphatic chart on, there's lots of resources on the internet about how to help your horse with lymphatic drainage, and the massage gun works amazing for helping to move lymph through the body. If your horse is on stall rest or something like that, it's really, really important to keep lymphatic system and lymphatic drainage. And your body workers can actually do lymphatic drainage as well. So that's something to think about. So then now let's talk about detoxification. So detoxification is kind of like my Achilles heel. It kind of drives me a little bit batty because right now it's the big buzzword in the natural health world, and everything's sold because it's detoxifying and blah, 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 blah. Well, honestly, you know, aside from lymphatic drainage in your lymph system, and there's one other thing I'm going to talk about, but and moving your horse, exercise, building good glutathione is the other last thing I'm going to talk about before we get to the organs of detoxification. And the organs of detoxification are the only true way to detoxify the body. But one other thing that we can do to help support our horse, other than movement and helping that lymph system, is helping your horse build excellent glutathione. So in building glutathione, first of all, glutathione is the master antioxidant for your body. It does everything. It is a powerhouse, but some horses can't build it very efficiently. And that's because perhaps they are not being given everything their body needs to help build good glutathione. So for example, there are 3 amino acids that are essential for building good glutathione. So one, of course, is glutamine, the other is glycerin, and the other is cysteine. And so feeding your horse a good quality grain with good protein sources is really, really crucial, not only for those 3 limiting amino acids, but these amino acids as well. So in order to build those amino acids, everything's like a trickle-down effect, right? The body needs to have certain nutrients. So one of them, of course, is vitamin E, and the other is selenium, beta carotene, which is found in grass and forage, and vitamins like vitamin C, vitamin B, and of course and vitamin D, and I said also vitamin E. So those are all really important in building good glutathione. So one of the best ways to do this, of course, remember, forage-based does not mean forage only, and you cannot possibly fulfill all of the protein requirements, especially to build things like glutathione, enzymes, and all the other good things that help also with digestion, with hay alone. So it's really, really important to feed a good balanced feed and to feed it to tag. What I mean by feeding it to tag is that you are supplying based on the horse's size and the horse's activity, its exercise. You are servicing that horse with its recommended daily allowance of vitamins, minerals, nutrients, so macro and micronutrients, in order to build all those components. You know, simple things too, like building ligaments. I see older horses with a lot of ligament damage, and when I start asking what the horse is eating, it's usually, oh, he's an easy keeper, he just gets hay and a salt lick or whatever. So it's really important. I can't stress it enough. Yes, forage is number one, and you base your feed program around your forage, but it is important to take your forage into consideration and feed to tag. Sulfur is another very crucial component of building good glutathione, and a lot of I'm busy for a second, sorry. Sorry about that. We're almost done here anyway. But yeah, so good exercise improves glutathione production and sleep. So now let's talk quickly, we're running out of time, this is getting long, about those organs of detoxification. So we breathe in those little nasty particulates and they get lodged in the lungs. The lungs try to get them out. The liver and the kidneys help with that to some extent as well. So there are some products which I like. So a good protocol for this time when we're in the wildfire season, and I'm going to suggest Omega Alpha products. I don't work for them. I get nothing from them. There's nothing. But they are a pharmaceutical company, and their level of stringency in purity is pretty radically high, to the extent that it's on the same parallel as things like opiates and opiate drugs and things like that. So things that you'd have to have a prescription for, narcotics and things like that. And so they also are the only ones that have this kind of stuff, honestly. There's lots of companies that sell vitamin E and selenium, but not that have the extent of breathing products that Omega Alpha has. So that's why I'm suggesting those. So first of all, to help you build good glutathione, they have an amazing product called Vantiox, Vantiox, and it's a powder that you mix in with your feed. That will radically help reduce the toxic load of your horse's body. And even horses that have heaves or COPD, you do see a good improvement most times with supplementing that on top of their ration. So that's number one. Number two is a product that they also make called Lung Flush. And Lung Flush is for acute situations, kind of like what we're going through right now with the wildfires. So it's meant to be a short-term product that you use for 21 days. I usually say like 1 liter or 21 days, whichever comes first. So the way that these 3 products that I'm going to talk about, the lung, the liver, and the kidney flush, work is the only true way to detoxify the body is to improve the function of the detoxification organs, right? So the lungs, the lungs, the kidneys, the liver, and of course the dermis or the skin. So the way those work is that those three products work is that they increase the blood flow and the circulation of those organs for that short period of time to help them rid the body of those irritants. So I always tell people to do the lungs first, then the kidney, do a kidney flush, and then finally follow up with a liver flush, because the lungs send their debris to the kidneys and the kidneys send their debris to the liver. So if you were to do a liver and then the lungs, you're going to be sending particulate back to the liver, if that makes any sense. So those are the things that I would do immediately. So the Vantiox and the lung flush, but then there's another product that you can use called Respifree, and it has other products in it. So it can help with a cough. It can help the capillaries become more elastic, or sorry, not the capillaries, but the trachea, the bronchial tubes become more elastic to allow air in. And there's just a couple of good things with the Respifree. So usually what I tell people is to do the lung flush first, and then to follow with the Respifree for about a week, just to help things settle down. And they were supposed to be coming out with a breathing paste. I don't know what happened with that. I'm not sure. I haven't heard anything about it. So, and I think that's just for exercise, to help improve exercise, or like, for eventers or racehorses or jumpers or barrel racers. So then the other products they have a product called Stasis, and that is like their version of Lasix. So it has no side effects or steroids or anything in it, and it works pretty well. It helps to prevent bleeding in the lungs, so the bursting of those capillaries and alveoli, and then your horse becomes a bleeder, which can be imminent death if you're not careful. And then also, what else? Oh yeah, they have a product called Herbacough. Like I said earlier, it's in the Respifree, and it helps to quiet a cough. So yeah. So again, just we're at 22 minutes, so we'll try to end by 25 minutes. But so improved detoxification through the lymphatic system, through movement, through building glutathione. Those are things that you can do day to day. And then in acute situations, lung flush, Respifree, Stasis, Herbacough, those kind of things. So yeah, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, shout out to me. I'm happy to help you. But always remember, your vet is number one. Consult your vet before you try or change anything new. And they also might have other ideas about how to help. There are things like Ventolin or steroids that you can utilize with a mask for certain horses. That might be a pathway to go down too. So there's a nice, and you can use any of the Omega Alpha products with this protocol. So this is where functional medicine and foundational medicine come together and work in harmony to have a more effective result. So anyway, be safe, help one another, be kind to one another. We're one big community, but it's a very small community, and just be good to each other. Take care of yourself and take care of your ponies. Bye.